the geography, history, and social studies and primary departments are celebrating or acknowledging a stream of activities planned for this month. And this lecture here today is part of that activity. And so we invited someone in who is knowledgeable, quite motivational in terms of how he speaks and so on, to tell us or to speak to us about Black History Month and why it is that we need to embrace it and celebrate it. Okay? They are members of the minor chapter of the UNIA Club, the Universal Negro Improvement Association Club. And there is a chapter that is established here at Shortwood, and you will learn a little bit more about it. And so those of you who are interested and would like to become members of it, you will hear more about it and so on. But before we invite our speaker to come and speak to us, I'm going to invite Sabrina Small. Oh, sorry, Sabrina Spence. I'm so sorry, Sabrina.
Oh, back up.
She's going to do a very short item for us, and then we will ask O'Shane, the president of the Shortwood chapter of the UNIA, to introduce our speaker, and then we will ask, and then our speaker will address us.
Good morning, everyone. So I should have had the music there. Every day I rise on the fire, yeah. That's all I got to take me through. I know one day I must end up here, yeah. To free my everything that holds me captive. Gonna be free like a bird in the sky. Gonna be free, gonna fly so high. Gonna be free, gonna be free, gonna fly so high. Life is so sweet and I don't wanna die, but this burden I bear can be hard sometimes. Food scarce, so we juggle everywhere. Sometimes we make out, she said no, they did. I need some face, I see the pain. Yeah. Gonna be free like a bird in the sky. Gonna be free, gonna fly so high. Gonna be free, gonna free my mind. Gonna be free, gonna fly so high. Life is so sweet and food scarce, so we juggle everywhere. Sometimes we make a move, we can't find a way. Come with Mama Jai, she said no, they did. When they use some face, we see the pain.
Alright, so I'm going to ask O'Shane to come.
Good morning, everyone. Not sound like you're not free at all. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Like you're not free, like they're free people. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Alright, so better. Alright. So as you know, I am the president of the UNIA chapter of Shortwood Business College, and I'm here to do nothing but to introduce our guest speaker and my good friend, who I've known for a few months now, and trust me, has been some good learning from this man. So, a professor of gardenism and the president of the Houston Division of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, and African Communities League, ACL, an organization founded by our national hero, the Right Excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey. The UNIA ACL is a social, humanitarian, and charitable organization which works for the general uplift of the Negro people of the world. Mr. Golden also sits on the National Committee of Reparations, which currently advises the government on matters related to reparatory justice. He exhibits these roles with passion, continuously to getting especially young people involved and supporting the objectives and the work of these bodies. Mr. Golden is also a businessman and an author. In 2017, he wrote and published the Garvey Nursery Rhymes, as he believes we should teach our children from the early age to embrace their African roots and learn about their own culture and press, with whom he shares two beautiful children. Now, everyone, help me to welcome a great man of this society. Help me welcome Mr. Golden and thank him for agreeing to engage us in this morning as we celebrate our Black History Month.
Morning, everyone. Morning. Thank you, Pastor, for that introduction. How many of you know he's a pastor? You didn't know that? Can I get an amen? Amen. Ever wonder where that word amen comes from? Ever look it up in the dictionary? Huh? I like to challenge the Christian leaders from Europe. I always ask them, where does that word amen or amen come from? And if you Google it, you will find that Amen was one of the Egyptian gods of the ancient civilizations of Ethiopia and Egypt. In fact, the first pharaoh who came up with the principle or the concept that there is only one God was a pharaoh by the name of Aken, who developed a religion around the Aten, which was another name for Amen. So even in the Eurocentric churches, they cannot get away from their African roots, which attests to the fact that as Black people, we built the first civilizations, the first universities, that we created the arts and sciences. But our experience coming across the transatlantic has tried to erase that, has tried to deceive us about the true narrative. In Jamaica, when you say Timbuktu, it means you're talking about some land place or a bush where them don't know where they're going. Passing down Timbuktu, it lasts. But Timbuktu was the city in Africa that was the first university city in the world. That people would travel from all over to go and study at schools like St. Corey. This is why we need a Black History Month. Yeah. And as much as Jamaicans might think that, oh, Black History Month is an African-American thing, you're so wrong. Black History Month started as Negro History Week almost 100 years ago, to be celebrated in the third week of February for the first time in 1926. It was conceptualized by a man named Dr. Carter G. Woodson. You ever heard of him? A few decades ago, or a decade plus, well, she's still alive. A very big singer. I wish I could sing like, was it Simone?
Sabrina.
Sabrina. I wish I could sing like, where's Sabrina?
She stepped
I wish
out.
I could sing like Sabrina. I would belt out one of her songs right now. But Lauryn Hill put what she called the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And it was based on this book. The name of the album she coined from the book The Miseducation of the Negro, which was the book written by the man who conceptualized what we now celebrate as Black History Month. It was Negro History Week for about 50 years until the 1970s on the surge of the Black Power movement that at Kent State University for the first time they expanded it to an entire month. Every February, even the office of the President of the United States acknowledges and celebrates Black History Month. Any of you watch the Super Bowl on Sunday? A Jamaican went out there and sang a traditionally black uplifting song that was carried through the civil rights movement of the 60s and still sung today in recognition of the struggles of Black Americans. That singer's Jamaican, born and bred. She did a beautiful rendition. I never knew she could sing. And many people were criticizing her while she's singing this song. But the reason the NFL invited her to sing that song was in recognition of Black History Month. Dr. Carter G. Woodson was also the second black man to graduate from Harvard University with a PhD. So those of you who are studying history and hopefully will teach history should appreciate Black history even more so because it was created by a history teacher. Now the reason he created it, even though he created it as Negro History Week, was because in 1926 he felt that black people were so disconnected from their true history that we had to pick up where we isolated it and meditated on it and replenished and recovered. What if we didn't do that would have been lost for many generations? So that's why I started by asking you what you know where the word amen comes from. Many people can't connect that to Black history because they have no knowledge of it. And I ask you do you know what you mean when it says to somebody Timbuktu? Timbuktu identity. And we cannot rely upon the curriculum and standards of organizers to teach us the truth of our ancestors because they were forced to develop a system that enabled them as a minority to control the majority of enslaved Africans that they kept under their heel. People cannot suppress 100 people by brute force alone. It's impossible. The only way you can keep them in control is by taking control of their minds. You know, I heard a story one time of a man that was incarcerated in a prison for so long, behind bars, that for the last 10 years he was kept in prison. He never even realized that he was. Because he had been so conditioned to believe that he was in the prison. He stopped trying to do it. Give up. Accept his place as a prisoner. Conditioning. As teachers, like it or not, you are responsible for the conditioning of our children. You are responsible for the conditioning of the next generation. What kind of conditioning are you going to give them? You live in a society where they still suffer from the pains of white supremacy. I'm not afraid to say it, many Jamaicans are uncomfortable with it. But it is white supremacy that leads some of our people to still feel that they need to bleach their skin. Because they're ashamed of their color or their race. It's white supremacy that leads black children 50 years, 10 years ago, when they sat them down and offered them a black a white dolly and ask them certain questions. Which one is the pretty dolly? Wait a minute. Which one is the good dolly? Which one is the good dolly? And the final question was, which one looks like you? So immediately you see the crisis in self-identity. Because even though they identify the white dolly as the pretty one and the good one, they look more like the black dolly. So that means they had internalized the fact that they were not pretty enough and not good enough. That's why you meet youths in the street sometimes and you see them approached by white people or anybody who speaks to that area of authority. They look down on the ground, can't even meet their eye, can't even meet the person eye to eye. Lack of confidence. One of the reasons our first national heroes, famous mantra was, if you have no confidence, that's the reason. In 1925, he wrote a thesis called African Fundamentalism. The first sentence of it said, the time has come for the Negro to forget and cast behind it his hero worship and adoration of other races and to start out immediately to create and emulate heroes of his own. I come from a generation where we used to watch on television Tarzan. Yes. A white man was dropping on the jungle and all of a sudden all the animals bow down to him. But the black man who had lived there for thousands of years before still have to run up and down. And they called him Lord of the Apes. Comic books I used to read as a child didn't have superheroes that looked like me. Superman stood for truth, justice, and the American way. So a white man who used to have a little cup there and pull down when he was Clark Kent, he flicked it back, and when he was Superman, he pulled it down with a curve. And nobody realized it was the same man. When the Black Panther film came out a few years ago, we rushed to the movie theaters. A lot? We felt different when we watched it, right? There were newspaper articles for days about it. And it showed you what we had been internalizing, what we kept subconsciously, and why we were so proud to finally see ourselves portrayed in that light. Because they robbed us of these achievements. They robbed us of our glory. They told us Christopher Columbus discovered the Americas. But that was in 1492. They never told us that the Emperor of Mali and African royalty 100 years before him. They never gave that to us in our history book. So we could say, well, but yet if you dug deep enough as a historian, you would know that when Columbus met the Caribs, or the Arawaks as they call them, the Taínos as they would prefer, they told him he was not the first to come across the sea, but that the others had darker skin. But they don't highlight that in big bold and answer the question and say, look at the achievements of your ancestors. No, you crack your history book and you're told you're the descendants of slaves. What's a slave? Anybody gives birth to a slave? First of all, you're the descendants of human beings. Second of all, you're the descendants of Africans who have a history that goes thousands of years back before slavery. The British who were enslaved by the Romans do not put in their history book that they are the descendants of slaves. But they were enslaved. And they don't the Eastern European people, a Slavic people, you know them named Lenin and Chich. They lost a bitch, Baghdad and itch. This itch and that itch. Scratch it. So you have an important role. Beyond Black History Month. Black History Month allows us to focus on this, and Black History Month was created so we could focus on our truths and forget his story that he has tried to foist upon us. We got to dig We got to begin to correct the narrative so that they understand. And as I said at the Jamaican History Teachers Association last night, you have to deploy Garveyism in every area of the curriculum. And what I'm calling Garveyism is not the history was in development for centuries before him. Going back to people like Akhenaten, the first man who said there is only one God. Marcus Garvey came later and said one God, one aim, one destiny. But thousands of years before, even 200 years before Moses, Akhenaten said there is but one God. Is that Moses was came and told the Jews that this be different from the Egyptians, we will worship one God. Check your history book. Moses, a prince of Egypt, who was exposed to the priesthood of Egypt, knew of Akhenaten and knew of his writings and was able to study and read and imbibe those things and then created a whole world religion that still exists today. Moses created Judaism. Before that, we were all just Egyptians. That's why when Moses was in the desert, he them and turning back and go back to worship the Egyptian gods. Also, Pastor, go on. This is our story. This is our history. We have to reclaim it. We have to digest it, we have to soak it in, and then we have to turn around and learn how to use it to our benefit. And this is the reason why we are creating Garvey clubs in the teacher training institutions. Because when we couldn't wait for the conservative Judeo-Christian faculties behind you all, who were afraid of Garveyism because they thought it was some racist philosophy. And it was anti-anybody. Garvey wasn't anti-anybody. Garvey had friends of all hues and cultures. But Garvey was for the upliftment of his own people by themselves. Not through the philanthropy of others. Because the Greeks teach you must beware of people bearing gifts. And if you cannot do for yourself, as Garvey says, a man's bread and butter is only ensured when he works for it. We have to create for ourselves. We have to change the narrative in the curriculum that has been given to us, and we have to infuse it with things that will make children be able to identify greatness within themselves. Stop giving them white Jesus to pray to. Stop giving them white dollars to play with. How much black dollars do you think Europeans buy every year to give their children? How much black dollars do you think we buy every year to give our children? Think about it. It's a simple thing, but God said never give your children white dollars to play with. And when they grow up, they're going to want to be white or have white babies. And that's why we have a culture where your grandmother would say, oh, you got white children, light skin, I'm going to get a pretty baby. What is a pretty baby? Pretty hair. What is pretty hair?
Right.
And these things are still seeped in our culture. And if we're not careful, we pass it on to the next generation. Malcolm X said, who taught you to hate yourself? From the top of your head to the soles of your feet. You don't realize that you hate yourself. A few years ago, we created a Garvey ABCs, an alphabet of Garveyism that we began teaching to children from they were 3, 4 years old. So they would say, you know, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then C. You know that song, right? You guys know the alphabet song?
Yes,
You know
sir.
how old the alphabet song is? You know how many generations learn the alphabet by singing the alphabet song? So we created the Garvey ABCs where children would memorize and repeat. We say A, they say Africa for the Africans. Those at home and those abroad, so much name and that's it. But the first thing was to ground them and root them in the fact that they were Africans. Not slaves, not the descendants of slaves. I mean, what has been done to us is a phenomenal social experiment. I take nothing away from Europe. Phenomenal what they did to rip us out of Africa and then try to rip Africa out of us. They almost succeeded. We start straightening here if we look like them. We start drinking like them and talk off. We put a little China cabinet in our house with China and God that we see them. In Africa, calabash we eat out of the hand. In fact, most of the world eats with their hands. And when Europe decides they must dig up silver and iron out of earth to eat with. Who came up with that? What did you say? So much resources just to eat the food that we are showing that our parents eat. We eat food. We eat the food. And we wash your hand. Easy. You need a fork? Plastic fork when you eat your lunch, you know that's what I'm going right now. Brilliant idea, Europe. Now you messed up the rest of the earth. Why never follow the Africa? Plate on plate. Calabash rope and tree. I want to have calabash we use banana leaf. You know many Jamaicans have the cokes that need to eat with their hand. Some of the older generation come, no, bring me a fork, please. Ready to defend Eurocentric title like a dead netting. And I said to them, so we have to the Japanese restaurant, you ever try your talking? You tell them to bring a fork? Huh? Are you ashamed of yourself? Come for an experience. Experience again who you are. Where you come from. Stop yourself. On Sunday I had a call with the chief of staff for the new Zulu king. He Miss Zulu to extend an invitation to join us in Jamaica for Africa Day. Hopefully we go over whether they come here. And the Army Club members will get to meet him up close and in person. If they didn't sign up for the club, then make sure. A multitude of kings in Africa, because there are a lot of them. But there are a few that we know because of certain cultural references over generations. We know about the Ethiopian kings because of the Rastafari culture within our culture. But if there's another king that we know of, hey, before I even get to that, who are
Kabaka.
you know that word Kabaka is the title of the king of the Buganda people in Uganda. If you don't know that, you're not really listening to Kabaka because he speaks about it in his music. The Kabaka is the king of the Buganda, which is the largest tribe in the country that we now know as Uganda. That's his title. That's where Keran, as his right name is, got that name from. He's the Zulu king. You know why? So when I was younger than you all are right now, there was a series that used to come on television on Saturdays. What if they wouldn't left that time the mother sent me to a Sabbath school and church in the evening too? If they wouldn't left, it's not surprising some of you. If they wouldn't left church quick to read me, but late to get over what Shaka Zulu. It's and then they couldn't rewind nothing and record nothing like come on time and watch it in. The series was so great to me. Played by a remarkable actor, Henry said. I used to memorize lines of it. The man said to the white man like in the Bible and tell him about Jesus himself. Jesus. Heaven. I said to him, look here man, you see this? The heavens belong to Amazulu and Shaka. The king. That man's a missionary. Now they are going to teach my people about Jesus. Teach them about Shaka. And so lines I could repeat to you. That is the impact it had on me as a child, right? And even though that movie was great and based on the real history of the Zulu people of Africa, there was a by the name of Major Mackerel at Shaka was not good looking man that I'm with. Tall and muscular. But yet a Jamaican DJ came out with a song ridiculing this man. Because anything African we were taught to despise, it's ugly. I laugh sometimes when Jamaicans meet Africans and they tell them their name and then they fumble with the name. They don't even try 2 or 3 times to get it right. It's a psychological. So much so that we take a movie where the man is good looking and we turn it into a song and say, oh, it's simply because it's African. I have never heard a European or an Englishman come and insult somebody and say, oh, you know what you think of being isn't it? Ugly. And she wasn't that great looking either. I'm sorry, I know you all have a royal visit last year and her grandchildren were here. And met with a few hand-picked ones of you. True? I wish the government was in the room. Put some question to them about reparations. Hey, Miss Christian? Never heard English people ridicule their kings. And we watch a film about a great African king because the Zulus were a small tribe. And Shaka took that tribe and conquered a multitude of tribes around them and created not a kingdom but an empire. His title was Kosi Amakosi, King of Kings, the great elephant they called him. When you reach great elephant, they must say bigger than lion. The lion is the king of the jungle, but the emperor of the jungle is the elephant, and the elephant that comes in the lion has to move away. This man was in fact. I got a little bit in the movie industry and I can tell you, they're remaking that Shaka Zulu series. It will be out this year on Showtime. They signed a deal with South African writers and South African actors to portray the same story but in a new generation. So look for it if you don't know the story of Shaka Zulu. But the point that I bring up is that these things are glorious things of our past that because of our conditioning, they cast aside the white supremacy that dominates us, whether politically, educationally, or economically. Teachers, understand the facts that 85% of the wealth of your country is concentrated in the hands of the minority. The organization of Jamaica, or look at the heads of any one of the oligarchs in this country, the families that control them, the pictures that are on the wall, don't look like you and me. Am I being controversial? Maybe. But am I lying? No, no. I need you to realize that your classroom is a battlefield. This is reggae month. Out there to try and distract us from the Black History Month. I don't know what you're talking about. Reggae is black people music. Reggae is the music of African redemption. The king of reggae, when his teacher put him forth to sing, never tell him say he was a singer, you know, him say you're not going to sing, you're going to wail. You know what wailing means? Wailing is, you have a funeral and sing, people wailing, not singing, you know, it's emotion and energy far back to the ancestors that comes out to you. That's what they call wailing. They say weeping and wailing and the gnashing of teeth. Amen? Amen. Comes from our souls in the classroom. Another way, another sound that Chronics kind of remix. Let me see if you don't know already. History. The way that said, I'm recruiting soldiers Georgia Army, recruiting soldiers. Jack time is now. Who know that artist? What teachers are not going to put themselves to shame in the classroom. You don't know, say the DJs and the singers and players of instruments have your students' attention more than your classroom these days. You know, they learn the artists, them sound quicker than they learn their lesson plan. So you have to up to the time with that. Peter Tosh is the artist, recruiting soldiers. You know the chronics one, right? Here comes danger, you know? Here comes trouble. And there's a line where it says, I'm recruiting soldiers, right? And Peter Tosh get it from. I know John Martin, and I know listen to Peter Tosh. But that is correct. When you get into the classroom, I want you to recruit people to bring that change in this country, to raise that level of consciousness, because all them are talking about solve problem of crime, solve problem of abuse, solve problem of this and that in our society. None of them in a parliament can fix it. They're not the ones in the background. You know who holds the key? Even the darkest murderer in our society today. Remember the one teacher that had an effect on him. Even the wickedest man in prison right now will tell you the name of that teacher that showed him kindness and got through. So imagine if it was more than one day. And he didn't take the job seriously. And I know sometimes when they take it as serious as me, they don't pay. So one of the things that the Garbage Club is going to do for you if you sign up is show you other ways to improve our revenue stream while keeping ourselves in the classroom and while deploying what we love to do. I was mentioning to the faculty advisor, Ms. Christian, and I didn't even begin this speech by recognizing the micro chapter and the micro faculty advisor, Mr. Simpson, who is here. Because that's how I'm excited to get into what I need to get into sometimes. But I was speaking to them about the fact that content is now king. There's so many streaming platforms and so many people looking for content to create films and to create podcasts and to create product to put up there to earn revenue. It's something I want you all as teachers to think about. You love history, you can use that content to create stories. You love geography, you love mathematics, you can create content to stream that will earn money. Now the clubs that we are organizing the teacher training colleges are not simply just to put on your resume as curriculum to say, oh, you are a part of the club. One, we want to teach you true Gardaism, which is more than just understanding our history as Africans. It's also addressing our situations as Africans. The Vice Chancellor at the University of the West Indies has called the 21st century the century of reparations. Reparations has come trickling down and it is about to erupt. $100 million from the Anglican Church, $100 million from the Catholic Church a few years ago, $130 million from Harvard University, £22 million from University of Glasgow, Princeton Theological Seminary, not a couple million there. Money is coming down. But what we don't want is for them to control the narrative and how it is distributed. I want to get it in the hands of our teachers. As much of it as I can. In fact, I never knew my grandfather until I was maybe 10 years old. Everybody was calling teacher. Everywhere we go in the community, teacher. Teacher. I swear, it's not till I'm 10 years old and realized my name was Patience. And I named my son after him. People used to bring chicken, fruit out of the tree. Because the people was on Sunday for dinner, it's like you just wait in the groceries for the delivery before you cook the dinner. You know, I forgot that. That's the kind of respect I knew teachers got. That's the kind of impact I knew teachers had on the community. And that's where we lost ground. And why our society has disappeared. We hold the bar. We are on the front lines. The box starts with us. We can produce killers, or we can produce productive members of the society. It all depends on what fuel we put into our machinery and how we direct those energies. Asking girls how beautiful they are and tell them that from their history. So then I put the one minute and I go with two sisters. I said, teach them that from a young age and you will have taught them well. I observe my students at that young age. Sometimes I see them a PB tucked up there and the light skin one in the class. And I love her too. But because of the societal pressures and because we suffer from white supremacy, I don't need to stop the light skin one, but I need to stop the darker one in the back and tell her, you're beautiful. Sometimes I say, oh, you're pretty. I do that. Because I know it will have an effect as she grows. They're not going to teach that at Shortwood. Those will be written in your textbooks. You have to develop those on your own. And right now in the age of information, there's so much more you have to develop on your own because the students will challenge you and they will Google you. Miss, you ever hear about this person? Sir, did you know that? I don't know what I'm talking about. Because you have to hold that respect. You know the kind of teacher that can make the classroom quiet now, just like I'm sticking everybody there? You have teachers like that still? Eh? Just like, and everybody's straight up. And then you have teachers that will be there all day long saying, please, stop sitting down! Sit down! And shouting on the top of them love and nobody knows why my next teacher was walking there. And then once everybody realized that teacher is there, and then they didn't have to say nothing, and then they was technique is important. So Black History Month, your knowledge base is important. Once you imbibe that knowledge, develop your technique. Deploy that technique and transform our society. That's really my message for you today. And the vehicle that we have created to do that is the Garvey Club. I want as many of you as possible to be active with the Garvey Club. There is our president in residence. Give him some support. Here are your brothers and sisters from the Michael University College doing the same thing on their campus, and they're here to support you. Give them some support. The Universal Legal Educational, Institutional, Constructive and Expansive Society. And it was founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro peoples of the world. The members pledge to do all in their powers to conserve the rights of their noble race while respecting the rights of all mankind. Believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, knowing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mar the path of man. But with love, faith, and charity to all, the reign of peace and plenty shall be burdened into the world, and the generations of men shall be called blessed. That is the preamble of our Constitution, written by Marcus Garvey, committed to memory by every president, so that people can understand we are not a racist organization that is against everybody, but we are an organization that understands the disadvantages historically that Africans have been placed at, and we are committed to overcoming those disadvantages as quickly as possible so that we can leapfrog into the future and reclaim our place on the global stage. We have chapters in the United States, chapters on the continent of Africa, divisions in Latin America, divisions throughout the West Indies. We are the first and oldest confraternity in this country and in the region for black people. Today, the largest that has ever been created. Our Garvey Club members to spend their summers at the division in Kenya and Tanzania, whether teaching English or teaching. People want to learn through a pattern. We can't manage that. I want you to visit the division of Costa Rica if you want to brush up on the Spanish teacher. I want you to go for conferences in New York and Washington, D.C. and visit the Black History Museum and link up with your brothers and sisters of the UNIA over there. We want to rebuild this fraternity, and there's no greater environment to do that than on a college. And you're hungry for experience, hungry for development, hungry for exposure. Collectively, we want to help you travel, see the world, learn as much as you can, because when you get into the classroom, that's what's going to give you the edge. In knowledge base and in technique. I'm coming to my twilight years and the sun and get ready for pep. But I've seen so much in this world. And I want that for the world. Individually, if you try to do it on your own, it takes a while. Some people want to travel, they talk about saving up for travel, but collectively, we can do this. Garvey clubs on the different campuses are given 4 tasks to carry out each academic year. One is an educational project. For example, Marcus Garvey was to come and present. Secondly, is an economic project, because it's not enough to just learn to be a teacher. We want to learn how to make money too. And we want to create revenue streams that can bolster us when the government, as them said yesterday, about there's no space. Teachers, you never hear Minister Manuel. No room in the budget. The teachers. When I hear that kind of language, I know more and more that they don't understand that we're on the front line. The other day, they might be the police and more vests. I would say you need more vests. Different kind of vests though. You need some padding. So that you're red not late. And you can meet your car note. And you can get to class on time. Yeah. So economic project is one of the things. Educational, economic. The third one is a community project. Whether we're going to collect food for the homeless shelter. For many years, the UNIA ran a teaching program at the Tower Street General Penitentiary, where we went into the prisons to help the incarcerated, whether it was tutoring them for their CXC subjects, or as I used to go in there and teach them Garveyism, so that when they come out, they don't come back in. Because you cannot be a Garveyite. And I don't care what they tell you about crime in this country. None of that crime is black people killing white people. always we're always quick to kill ourselves, but then if you understand that we were taught to despise ourselves from the top of our heads to the sole of our feet. So it's easy to murder something you despise. Your teachers, you teach them correctly. We can change them. The final one, what I said, education, economics, community. The final one is a social project. Social project for you on the campus. Teachers, I know Shortwood is the most conservative of the teachers' colleges. But sometimes we want to garbage up here with you a little party. We can bring some artists up here for you and you guys have a good time. Teachers need to unwind too. And the bus can come from Michael with Miconians, and the bus can come from other places where we have trucks, and they can come past with you. Right? And if you have a woman that you come from women here not enough, then we can import something from Michael there. Right? And vice versa.
Sir, my name bad you. My name bad you, sir.
Lesson to learn and technique to learn so that you can observe your students growing up and guide them. My 9-year-old son come and tell him the other day, say one boy in class tell him, say, he was transgender. He did not. And when his mother told him what it meant, he said, but all of that are components of society that bring their own ills. And we are influenced by other cultures where we need our teachers to stand up in the classroom and not only defend the curriculum, but defend the culture, but defend the righteous culture, defend the uplifting culture, defend them to be proud of themselves, and not to take on and regurgitate what others are foisting upon them. Some problems can stay in America and Europe. We don't need them here. You're on the front line. So today, Pastor is going to take the sign up. We have a few months left in this semester. I'm sure we can pull off one of the term projects. But the Garvey clubs are only as strong as the members. It's Christian who is the advanced school can get the permission. Right, Christian? But you must conceptualize, you must create. There was a time where the student body and the college student body in this country were the most militant and active and brought the most changes. Now that we have the Walter Rodney strikes of the 67.
Yes, sir.
When students used to march from Parliament and all of these things, and I said that is the road we're going down. But you all are the pinnacle of change. There's a point in your life where you get to the age, in between being a child when you think you're invincible and you can't die, and in between reaching my age now when you're not younger ones and you get to die and you don't want to left them behind. I mean, I'm going to do certain things. The younger ones can't do it. You are at that point. You are the strongest that you will ever be. You are the freest that you will ever be. Those are your now. Be effective now and create for tomorrow the kind of world you want to see your children live. I need to say anything else? How many of the signs of the God are there? Well, they can't with march for Parliament and they can't put up on eh? Put it up, man. Up, you mighty race. Accomplish. Thank you for your time today. The UNIA's mass meetings are held once a month. First Sundays at Liberty Hall downtown. Every chapter of the UNIA must have 7 officers, a male president and a lady president. I didn't make it up, that's how God created it. And this was before the women's league movement. God said, you can't have just one at the head, and you can't have just two of them at the head. Right? A male president, a lady president, a male vice president, a lady vice president, an executive secretary, a treasurer, and a chaplain. A chaplain don't just mean that you must know the UNI prayer, you know you must. But the chaplain is what I think you all call nowadays PROs. chaplains are also important for the intake lines, we call them. So it's not only doing the functions of the club, but it's also recruiting new members as first years come in. That's very important. Continuity and legacy. A lot of times we have clubs dying and we have to restart them because people are going through the motion and they're not thinking about the sustainability of the club. We need sustainability and we need. And don't leave today without getting each other's numbers. Michael, officers, Shortwood officers, right? Communicate. Tell each other what works on each one's campus. Learn from each other's mistakes. Learn from each other's achievements. That's the spirit of fraternity. It's not a competition. It's about collective security together. Next week, we will be at Modern College to get them up and going again. At the end of the month at Edna and also at Sunshine on February 28th. That is just added to the roster, Mrs. Simpson. Alright? So again, thank you all for coming out. Learn your Black history, but don't just learn it for your sake. Let it inform and infuse your technique as a teacher. One God,
one aim, one destiny.
blessed God.
On behalf of the Shortwood Teachers College, we just want to extend our gratitude for this. Thank you for each other to speak and responsibility.
Anytime you have an invite, I will ask for a call.
Hey! This one wasn't for free, sir.
Okay, students, go on and thank Mr. Bowling again for his very passionate, effective, and motivating lecture on Black history, why it is that we need to embrace and regain our roots and so on. I want to thank you also for being attentive and staying the course. And so I will allow you now to go to the lunch.
Go and go sign up.
You got it all?
Tell him I sign up and come there. No, we're trying to leave by.
I will stop this. Oh, yeah.